Thank you to all of our panelists, guests, and sponsors for being part of this important event. To kick us off, I'm honored to introduce a longtime leader and supporter of Houston's business community and cultural vitality. Please join me in welcoming Mayor John Whitmire.
Thank you, Tracy, and good morning to each and every one of you. Thank you to the Houston Business Journal for bringing us together. This is a great way for the mayor of Houston to start his busy day. And I could be at 100 places this morning as the mayor of this great city, but this is where I want to be. This is where I need to be, because I want to publicly reinforce the city and my administration's commitment to our sports franchises and to our great rodeo. You know we live in a great city. We have great people, but like all major cities, we have challenges. And the difference is in Houston, we're meeting our challenges. And yes, our sports franchises, our rodeo, and so many of you here are what make Houston such a great city. We've been discovered, not only because of our people, but because of our institutions, and they're on display today. In real time, everyone's getting to see why Houston is such a great city. It's amazing what the economics of the sports franchises bring to the city of Houston. And I could spend the rest of the morning talking about our great rodeo and the economic impact, and certainly the joy that each and every institution brings to us. So let me just say, personally, I'm committed to their success. One of the greatest things I ever did, and the hardest thing I ever did, was pass the Sports Authority legislation. In the mid-90s, we had lost the Oilers to Tennessee. The Astros were very frustrated at the Dome. And so the leadership, Robert Eccles, the county judge, Bob Lanier, came to me and said, would you pass or carry legislation to create a sports authority? We needed a revenue stream, a user fees to build additional stadiums. Believe it or not, as a young senator, I said, I will do it with your help if the new stadium will be east of Main Street. I had enough common sense and enough political instincts to know it had to be about economics, not about franchise owners. So very difficult because it was controversial. People demagogued that it was going to take monies away from schools and other needs. No, it's been a home run. Took a little longer, Anita, than I thought, but what a celebration. Probably the greatest joy I get as a public official in feeling the accomplishments of making a difference is to go to one of our sports events and see how for one day we're Houstonians. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrat, we're not ethnically divided. We are Houstonians when we go to World Series or championship games. And all I can say is, don't let anything get in our way. I applaud the franchises here today. I've met with them individually, collectively. Last fall, they said we need to improve the Sports Authority leadership. We have it with Juan Garcia and Mr. Wash. We are on the road of greatness. Let's go to work. Let's enjoy this event. Thank you, Houston Business Journal. We need to come together like this as Houstonians. We're celebrating our successes today and our commitment to going forward. Thank you. Let's go to work.
Thank you so much, Mayor Whitmire, for your leadership and for starting us off with such an impactful message. A special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Crow LLP, our silver sponsor, Berkman International, and our contributing sponsor, Houston Methodist. We truly appreciate your continued partnership and support of meaningful conversations like today. We also want to extend our sincere gratitude to the George Theater for graciously hosting us in their beautiful theater, as well as Churrasco's Catering for the wonderful breakfast. At this time, we're proud to once again recognize our presenting sponsor, Crow LLP. Please join me in welcoming Adam Dimick, Texas market leader at Crow, to share a few remarks.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this inaugural Business of Sports panel discussion hosted by the Houston Business Journal. My name is Adam Dimmick, and I'm the new Texas market leader, and I'm honored to be here today representing Crow LLP as a proud sponsor for today's event. As a leading public accounting firm focusing in consulting and technology, Crow is dedicated to delivering innovative solutions that help clients across all industries succeed. Our commitment to fostering economic development and community engagement in Houston is unwavering, and we're thrilled to support this important conversation. Today, we gather to explore the dynamic intersection of sports and business and the profound impact that the economic development of our vibrant city has had. Houston thrives on its passion for sports. From the Houston Astros to the Texans to the Rockets to the Dynamo and Dash, our professional sports scene isn't just a source of entertainment. It is a vital engine of economic development. It creates jobs, it stimulates tourism, and it generates a significant spending that benefits local businesses and contributes to tax revenue. And we can't forget the amateur and collegiate games and tournaments, which also greatly benefit our local economy and foster a sense of community pride. Major sporting events, such as the World Cup, will draw visitors from around the world. They will showcase Houston as a premier sports destination and further enhance our city's reputation. These events are expected to generate substantial economic activity, provide a significant boost to Houston's economy, and reinforce our status as a global sports and business hub. The economic impact of sports is multifaceted. As we embark on this discussion, let's consider the role that each of us can play in supporting and enhancing the economic development driven by the business of sports in Houston. Strategic partnerships, innovative solutions, and community-focused initiatives. There are countless opportunities to contribute to the continued success and growth in the sports industry. So once again, thank you for having Crow as a sponsor for this discussion, and thank you to all of you for being here today. I'm confident that the insights and ideas shared here will inspire new collaborations and drive positive economic change for the Houston sports community. So let's kick off what promises to be an engaging and enlightening conversation. Tracy?
Thank you so much, Adam. We're grateful for your continued partnership. We're also excited to recognize our silver sponsor, Berkman International. Please welcome Sharon Berkman, President and CEO of Berkman International, to say a few brief remarks.
I am so excited to be here today because we had beginning 7.5 decades ago when my dad returned from World War II as a celebrated B-17 bomber pilot and was swept up into this exciting, brand new discipline and field that they were calling social psychology. In simple terms, it just meant, how do you help people in teams and as leaders work better together? Now that was a new concept for those days, but now we're all very familiar with it, and there are thousands and thousands of assessments out there. But I will tell you, the reason Berkman is still here, 74 years and counting, is because we do things in a very different way. We really look at the deeper underlying motivations, both career and interpersonal, that make a person the unique, powerful individual they can be. So it's, I can tell you that we work with teams, every kind of sport you can imagine, which is why this is such a fun event for us. Basketball, baseball, soccer, rugby, tennis, golf. Every kind of sport involves people and their ability to work well together and be strongly motivated. So it's my pleasure for us to be here, and I hope you'll take a moment and swing by and meet some of our folks at the table out front. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you again to the entire Berkman team for your continued support. I am Sean McCrory, Editor-in-Chief of the Houston Business Journal. It's now time for the conversation we've all been waiting for. Today's panel brings together some of the most influential voices in Houston sports, leaders whose decisions impact not just the field, but the entire region. Leading today's discussion is our moderator, Ryan Walsh, CEO of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. Ryan, thank you for guiding this conversation. Please join me on stage. Now I would like to introduce our amazing panelists. First, Chris Bowman, President and CEO of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Next, Jessica O'Neill, President of Business Operations with the Houston Dynamo and Dash. Next, Giles Kibbe, Executive Vice President, General Counsel with the Houston Astros. Gretchen Shear, President of Business Operations with the Houston Rockets. And Mike Tomlin, President of the Houston Texans. Thank you all for joining us. One final note before the discussion begins. If you'd like to submit a question for our panelists, you can do so at any time by texting your question to the number displayed on the screen. We'll reserve time at the end of the discussion for a live Q&A, and we'll try to address as many questions as we can. The panelists, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for being here early. I know that this is early for some, certainly for me, so I appreciate everybody getting up, joining us this morning. I'm Ryan Walsh, the CEO of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with this group of innovators and leaders and people that I call friends. And we have a lot to talk about this morning, including the diverse sports scene, the rodeo, and the rest of the entertainment landscape that we'll be talking about today. So let's just dive into it and get into the questions. As Sean said, we do want to hear from you guys. There is a text line, so if you have a question during the show, text that number and we will take those questions at the end of the panel. So this one's really for all of you. In 2022, the Kinder Institute did a survey that said that 70% of Houstonians saw professional sports, your entities, as one of the keys to being a Houstonian and the civic pride that they feel as a Houstonian. What are the other unique and defining characteristics that make Houston a world-class sports and entertainment city?
Who's
Dr.
going
Boone.
first?
I think Gretchen.
You spoke first. You ready? Look, we were all talking backstage. One, you called this a show, so like I'm a little.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought it was a casual panel discussion.
It's a chat. It's a chat.
I don't think that you will see, the mayor talked about this, where, 30 years ago, he had a city and a county come together to build 3 facilities, and shortly thereafter, a 4th in short order. And you don't see that in a lot of cities. It's usually kind of every person out for themselves. And I think that's always what's made Houston great, is everyone coming together. And then you look at the landscape of ownership, and obviously Ted is new, but has ingrained himself in the community. You've got our owner who, is a native Houstonian who loves this. You have the McNair, you have Crane. You've got local Houston ownership that really cares about this city and the community, and that's not always the case in the professional landscape anymore.
The only thing I would add too is that there's a couple things that make our city different. One, we all know it, but it's the culture of our city. I think our food scene, our art scene, obviously our sports scene, but that's why we're here. It's incredible. The fact that we are the most diverse city in the country comes alive in so many ways. And the other, and we use this, at least in our world, quite a bit when we're educating national partners and media members and things like that about Houston, is how convenient it is. 3 of our facilities sit within a stone's throw from each other, and it's very easy to get to NRG Stadium. That is not the case when we visit most places across the country where your sports facilities are so concentrated. They're in your downtown district. You have the ability to sort of unlock all those resources collectively. So I think the culture and the convenience make our market different and attractive to major large-scale international events, but also the day-to-day quality of life that we know Houstonians are sort of referencing when they talk about not only sports, but why are they proud to live here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure, I'll be happy to add. To me, just speaking from the rodeo's perspective, it really is an example of what's happening in the community. Because there's, as you know, there's 36,000 volunteers at the rodeo. It's very volunteer-driven. We're volunteer-powered. But when you take a deeper dive, it's all about caring. This is such a caring community. We really care about all of our teams. And we have a lot of pride, I think, in all the things that we do. And I became CEO during COVID. Which I don't recommend, but I'll add this point. What we learned as we were getting ready to start back is how prideful the community was. That they were responding to everything that we were doing in hopes that we were coming back, and it just showed you how much they deeply cared about our event, but more than that, about the community. And to the diversity point, 100%. Even the people that move into this community, they want a taste of what we're offering. And they become Houstonians quickly. And so when you look at the number of people that are moving here every day, and they buy in. And so we definitely see that, obviously, at our show. And again, I think it's just a testament of what we see across the community when it comes to sports and events both.
Absolutely. And talking about caring as well as, I think one of the unique things about Houston sports and entertainment, sports specifically, is that we have three owners who have their life in Houston. Ted's getting there soon. I'm sure he'll be moving to Houston soon, hopefully, knock on wood. And of course, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, which I think is unique, is that you have these owners, their lives, their families, their businesses are built in Houston, and Houston is at the heart of what they do. Do you think that plays a role in the way that they think about the sports and the fan-facing, as well as the back of the house, so to speak, elements of what you all do every day and during your season?
Oh, absolutely. Jim is solely focused on working with our corporate sponsors throughout Houston, relationships that he's developed, the things that he wants to do with our foundation, all these things that he was born in St. Louis, but he's been in Houston for almost 50 years now. So this is his home. This is what he wants. He wants Houston to have success in all the sports, with all the sports franchises, and that success is more than on the field. He wants to work with the community. One of the things we were talking earlier about what makes Houston unique, and for the Astros, you know, we evaluate every category of our business, and we compare ourselves to other teams in baseball, and we look at what other teams are doing, and how, you know, why are we ranked fourth in certain things, and second or first or fifth, and how can we get to that next level? And one thing about Houston that has done it for us, everybody talks about our long-term success, and they talk about our rebuild. But our rebuild got us a couple of years of that. But what's really driven it for us and what's allowed us to have long-term success is Houston has the second most corporate Fortune 500 companies, second to New York. And so when we were able to rebuild and we were getting good players on the field and fans were coming back to see the Astros play, that's when our corporate sponsorship group really started driving revenue. And when we were able to do that, Jim started putting that back into the payroll, which fed the success on the field, which feeds the fans, which feeds the corporate sponsorship. And that's how we were able to have 10 years of being on top, as we have been. And that's just due to Houston, the unique situation Houston puts us in, fourth largest city, second most Fortune 500 companies.
You know, so as we were talking, I've been here 4 months now, and I think I have a unique perspective on it because I had a chance to sit with Cal and Hannah, obviously prior to taking the role. And really the first thing that really impacted me, like really left an impression on me, was Cal talking about wanting to be world class, wanting to do the best with the Texans for the city of Houston. Everything he talked about was about how it ultimately served the greater community. And you know, when you walk out, you kind of have a little bit of a glow. You're like, I can buy into that. You know, that's something that you can spend your time and effort on. And I think, you know, now being here 4 months, I see them every day. And the way that the community, the city is always front of mind for them, I think that's pretty special. And you can hear it from this panel here that's, you know, certainly it was unique to me to hear an owner that authentically engaged in the betterment of the city. But of course, you know, it's across the board, and I think that's a credit certainly to all the leaders here in the city.
Absolutely. And looking at the both of you guys, I mean, the Houston Texans and NRG Park, and as you describe it, a small little nonprofit for the kids, and the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. What are some of the ways that the Texans and the rodeo work together as far as the community impact on what you do? Because you do have a very diverse and divergent, I'd say, even business model and kind of interest, but so much of what you do affects so much of the community and the population. What are some of the things that you guys work on together that are impactful to that?
Well, I think it's a little bit of just who we are, but both organizations about being community driven. Obviously people know ours, particularly from an educational giving point of view, over now $630 million to the youth of Texas, but it's also a number of other things that we do within the show, whether it be promoting agriculture, supporting education in a number of different places. And I think where we talk a lot about is trying to find unique places where we could partner. And so I think we will see more of that as we move forward. But I also think it's important to point out that NRG Park itself is a facility that is open to host folks when people are in trouble. We've seen that. And so that's a part of the conversations that the Sports Corp will have with us to make sure that we're doing all we can to support the community, because it is a county facility. So,
You know, I think that's one of the ties, certainly. Chris and I have a lot of ties together. We've bonded very quickly. I was fortunate enough to join the board meeting the other day, and you know, Chris nicely said, "You have boots, right?" I was like, "Yes, I have boots." So we have a tight bond. He said, "I'm wearing the hat today." I was like, "Okay, I'll leave the hat behind."
there was a text chat about that yesterday.
There was.
Yeah. You know, but I think one of the ties is about the community, and so certainly from a Texan standpoint, we really think about making football accessible for the youth, flag football in particular, boys and girls, and that's a immediate focus because of its immediate impact, but it's also a long-term focus. You know, I think we're both always focused on what benefits the community in the long run, and certainly when we think about all the great traits and characteristics that you can learn from the sport, you know, we feel we need to be a steward of that and make sure that it's accessible to the community overall. So we'll continue to do that. We have a 500% growth on participation for girls flag football, so it's underway. But those are thank you. You know, those are things that I think, you know, when you talk about where you aligned, in general, community is a place that the rodeo and the Texans are aligned.
Absolutely. I'm going to move it back downtown a little bit and address our friends with the stadiums downtown. The I-45, I-69 project has been talked about. It's been thought about. It's been thought about and thought about and thought about. Given you all certainly plenty to think about, but I'm interested to know and sharing with the audience, how are you all preparing for that? I mean, it's a monumental project that it's going to affect downtown for decades and generations, but you all have your livelihoods in downtown right next to it. Interested in what you guys are thinking about and planning to do as far as you prepare for it.
Is this where we jump in and ask what our landlord is doing to help us prepare for?
He'll be here
the
later to
project?
answer questions, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll save you, Ryan.
Yeah.
To your point, it's been thought about. We all see it's happening. They are closing roads. They are digging into the ground. They are moving drainage. It is underway. Now, how long will it take is a great question. I'm not sure anybody up here can answer that right now, but regardless, it is happening. It presents tremendous opportunity. Obviously, it also presents challenges. There's a lot of communication and collaboration going on amongst all of us right now, obviously with TxDOT. I think from our perspective, right, East Downtown is our home. East Downtown presents really I would say the peak of the combination of culture and convenience that I talked about earlier. What this does is it further addresses the convenience opportunity by making, you know, these corridors walkable and safe and welcoming both to visitors and to residents to come spend truly, you know, the day, the afternoon, the evening in our great downtown, in and around it, in a way that doesn't exist now. So we are cautiously optimistic, I would say, about the fact that the work is happening and about the fact that the timeline is important, as long as we keep talking to each other about the work that's underway.
Yeah, you know, downtown Houston, Chris Larson's doing some great things with trying to make downtown more accessible, more walkable, cooler. He's doing a great job. I think the three of us and the city and Metro need to get together and really work on a plan that will make it more convenient for our fans to get in and out of downtown quickly. And it's something that I think can happen pretty easily. We just have to start planning for it. Look, this is it's affecting us now. I've missed my exit has been blocked, and I keep taking the wrong exit to get downtown now. And so I know that's just going to be like for the next 13 years. And so it's going to be tough, but we have to make it better, and we have to start working on that plan. I think it's a great opportunity to use Metro Rail. It drops people off within close proximity to Shell Stadium, Daikin Park, Toyota Center. We just have to have a plan to get people, where do they land, where do they park, get on that rail, get to the stadiums, or whatever that plan is. It's something that we're working on now internally. We need to start working on it collectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think there absolutely will be short-term pain. Like, hopefully we can all say it's short-term, but I think it's going to be a short, long-term area. But I mean, asking the question, us all being here together, you talked about, Chris Larson, obviously with Houston First. For us, the highway project is absolutely important and will impact kind of traffic flow and convenience and ease. But in the long term, like, if you've seen the vision for Houston, like, this will be phenomenal, and it absolutely has to happen in order for Houston to stay first class. In the short term, the convention expansion, right, is happening behind our building. So in the short term for Toyota Center, that will probably be a bigger impact for us. And hopefully we will learn some lessons and some best practices on how to communicate road closures. You show up every day and a different road is closed, and how are we communicating that? And, with the convenience of the venues being nearby, I mean, we'll talk about this at some point in here, but for the most part, a lot of people's only interaction with downtown and the city of Houston sometimes is because they are coming to our venues and because they are coming to an event. And so if that becomes difficult, painful, and a frustrating process, the thing that we have done, which is create these beautiful buildings in the right part of town, we can't let that be a deterrent. We've got to make sure that we're communicating and have everyone cooperating to make sure that we have staffing and traffic control and police and communication in place so that we can see the long-term vision and not get frustrated in the short term.
Absolutely. And talking about some of the things that you all are planning, in talking with other teams or facilities in your worlds, are there things that other buildings or cities have that you think could add to Houston's greatness that you've experienced as you've gone to games in other cities or events?
I mean, I think the short answer is yes. From NRG, 23 years old. And so the business, if you just think about your daily lives, how has your life evolved over the last 23 years? It looks completely different.
I had hair 20 years ago. Yes.
Less gray. And so I think you can apply that to the stadia. There are experiences that really focus in more on really what you call general admission, the entire bowl, a better experience that's easier to get in, it's easier to stay there, it's easier to get to your seat, to get your food and beverage. There's a lot of friction that's been removed in the experience when you start looking at what other venues are doing. And there's a lot of customization. People come to our venues to cheer on, to be a part of the community, but they all come for different reasons. What are they using it for? Is it for a business tool? Is it for your family? Are you a super fan? I think the newer experiences out there all support that. And then there's the non-sexy stuff of the back of the house. Like, how well does this building operate? Why does that matter? Well, the more efficient it operates, the more events you can have. The more you can make that building active, the more you can actually service as an entertainment destination back out to the city. Not many people want to talk about freight elevators and the different stocking and how you move through a building when you're trying to run an event. But those things matter too, and those have evolved as well. So I think the exciting thing is we have really great bones, certainly at NRG Stadium, and collectively we're all trying to figure out how do you advance that. So it is a world-class experience, which is everyone's been talking about what Houston deserves.
And if I could add to that, we talk a lot internally. We're not competing against other events. We don't see it that way. We don't see ourselves competing against other rodeos or even competing with the folks here. We're competing against people's time. That's what it really comes down to. And if it takes a long time to park and get into the stadium, or they're standing in line a long time, it doesn't matter if it's a digital wireless experience or not. If we're not creating that back of house, having in place what we need to have place, and they're waiting on a hot dog for 20 minutes, now all of a sudden that experience isn't quality experience. And so we have to continue just to look at how other people do things to draw fans in, because I really believe in today's world, time is more important than anybody. If you're going to sit in traffic in Houston, which we're used to doing, but if you're going to add an hour to that because you want to come down to the rodeo, or you're having a hard time getting out of the parking lot when it's over, those are all critically important for us to evaluate, because people can also just decide to stay home, order in, and watch Netflix. I mean, that's the world we live in. And that, to me, that's what we're really competing against when we're trying to create that first-class, world-class experience.
Absolutely. And Gretchen, you said it so eloquently as far as the needs of the stadiums and being the landlord, but I think it's important to ask the question, certainly of this group, and there's a conversation nationally being had about whether or not public money is needed to support these kinds of facilities, and I'm interested in y'all's response on that question from your perspective that I think might be helpful.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick on this. I mean, the mayor started here. It was a very key initiative that he felt not only was important for the city of Houston, but for the state of Texas, to create legislation, to create the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, to create a financial mechanism in order to build and now maintain these stadiums. So there was public support for that. There is public support, and the infrastructure is there. The state of Texas has a major event reimbursement fund. They have an event trust fund. They've got mechanisms in place. Houston First just was able to tap into the state of Texas legislation that existed in other areas that Houston was not utilizing in order to expand the convention center, in order to reinvest back in Houston to make sure that this fourth largest city, stays a beacon. So it's there, and it's our job, and maybe our landlord's job, right, is to get creative and to look at what already exists that our taxpayers and our voters have said we want this and this is important, and how do we maximize that, and how do we look at other available assets to utilize also. And then at the same time, we're running a business too. Like Tillman's invested $70 million into the facility since he purchased the team, because it's the right thing to do, and we have a business to run, and we can't just wait for somebody else to do things. And it's, we've talked about it before. Chandler's covered it before, but there's enhancements that are going to happen all the time, and it's got to be the right balance and the right conversation. But the mechanisms are in place, and we got to utilize everything to our advantage.
Let's talk about the mayor's initiative on the sports authority. Chandler France wrote a great article about this last year. Toyota Center, what is now Daikin Park, they were built for the purpose of revitalizing downtown Houston. In the 1990s, businesses were leaving. There was no retail. There was virtually no residential, very few hotels. To save downtown Houston, they formed the Sports Authority to bring the stadiums downtown. And it's been a huge success. Since then, lots of hotels, residential complexes going up left and right. All this retail has come back. Chris Larson was quoted in that article. He talked about unique visitors to downtown Houston, people that are going downtown that are not working every day. And it's about 10 million people a year that are going downtown, a unique visitor. Half of those people are going to a game to see the Dynamo Dash, the Astros, and the Rockets. Because of the size of our stadium, because of the number of games we play, about a third of the people, 30% of the people that go downtown for reasons other than work are going to an Astros game. That, and our three stadiums have led to the revitalization. And so it was a significant investment that saved downtown Houston. It's been a huge reason for the success of downtown Houston. So we're at a point now where these stadiums are 25, 23 years old, and they're old. And we're at a point where we need to invest in them to get us through 2055. We all love our stadiums. We love our location in downtown with the Astros. We want to be there. We want it to be a first-class facility. And it's been proven why this needs to be a public-private partnership, why public money needs to fund these stadiums, because it leads to the success of downtown Houston, which leads to the success of Houston overall.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, the only thing I'll add, as the newest facility of the three that we're talking about, in 2010, East Downtown TERS did and commissioned a pretty aggressive study and set of projections about what Shell Energy Stadium would do to an area that, when you look at just on the other side of the highway, because that's the only real way to delineate the impact, what does that look like? They had an aggressive set of projections, and we've doubled it. So to Giles's point, whatever goes into these facilities, whatever comes from public funding goes right back into public infrastructure. There are, and Gretchen mentioned, Tillman's investments. These owners, whether local or, as noted, Ted Siegel is based in New York, but operates in Houston and is heavily invested in the community. These owners have been keeping up with the exciting things, but mainly the stuff that just has to happen. Mike used the word unsexy. It's real. The infrastructure and back of house operations are the most expensive, and they have to there's no choice. It's not that anybody's sitting around sort of waiting to do the work that needs to be done. I mean, Ted has invested $30 million in the 4 years that he's owned the facility. So whatever support through the mechanisms that already exist, as Gretchen mentioned, don't necessarily need to be created, but need to be leveraged, need to be potentially reconsidered. It goes right back into a piece of public support and event space and operations that the more elevated these buildings are, the more often they are used. Our building sitting dark and empty with no programming does nothing for the community. But the more active they can be, the faster we can convert, the more events and different types of events we can use, the better for everybody that is in and around downtown, but also Houston as a whole.
Yeah, I think this is the questions. I think it's a critically important question. And what's interesting to me is you hear these things about the public doesn't want to do public-private, but the reality is that's what we've always done. That's what we've done. And that's now as we look to the future, we need to look for more options and more opportunities to do that. But they're all public-private partnerships. And so as we look towards the future, I think Energy Park is probably where downtown was 20 plus years ago. And we've got to create some sort of destination at Energy Park. And I know that's Mike's background and his leadership too, with some creative ideas there. But to me, as we move towards the future and you're creating more public buy-in, for lack of a better term, it's about providing them something that they're going to want to come to, right? I think that's critically important. We too, as the rodeo, we too have invested in NRG Park over the years, as you know. From building an arena to building the old Astor Hall, which also brought a ton of economic impact to the community. So for 58 years, that's been home for us, and we know that there's another chapter that has to be written, and we feel like as this lease gets ready to expire, that's where we are. And how do we build the right partnerships publicly? How do we build the right partnerships privately? I think Giles made a really good point earlier on sponsorships. I mean, the sponsorship opportunities in Houston to find other private partnerships, I think, are things that we have to look deeper into as we look at the next 30 years. And so these companies want to be a part of our brand, that they believe in what we all do at this table because of how many people do come to our events. And I think as we look towards the future, we have to be creative about what those approaches are.
As you guys are going through it, and each team, I'm sure, does a survey of one type or another with a fan. What are some of the challenges that you guys are hearing over and over as far as those surveys go? What are the citizens, what do the residents really want to see in some of these facilities?
Well, they love the rodeo, so there's nothing.
Undoubted, yes. Rodeo notwithstanding.
You never lose, Chris. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. I got to drop
everybody
my line.
else but rodeo.
We lose all 20 nights. No, I'll say this. I mean, the things that we hear are very similar to what you would hear anywhere, is that I waited in line too long, it was too crowded. Definitely in the last 4 years, we've heard a lot more about crowd density and crowd size. And it's interesting because we use the entire park plus another couple hundred acres offsite. And so that's front of mind for us. How do we grow? How do we do this in a way to welcome this year 2.7 million people? But the most critical is, quite frankly, parking, transportation, and crowd size, and which leads to long lines, long bathroom lines, those kinds of things, which are all a product of success. But as I told our board last week, and I want to highlight here, transportation and parking was 35% of our problems last year. This year was 34%. So we're making progress.
Wow.
But in all seriousness, it is important because it goes back to how people are going to use their time. And we want to get them there and get them in as quick as we can. It's a high priority. So we hear a lot of it is the back of the house stuff. No question. So.
Anyone else with that?
I mean, our surveys say the same thing. It's parking and traffic is the number one issue. How quickly can you get to where you're going so that they're not coming to a game to sit in traffic. They're coming to sit inside the stadium and have a cold beverage or two and some good food. And what are the barriers to get there? So absolutely, that is the concern.
Yeah, and, people don't watch games like they used to. They want different things when they're at the ballparks. Now, everything's data on your phone, where they're looking at statistics, where they're looking at what's going on in the game. They're looking at where was that pitch, did the ump blow the call? And so technology is a big part of what they want. They want to order their food and drinks from the seats. They don't want to have to go stand in line. So things have changed. So we all have to change with that and get more efficient, offer more things to our fans. And it's always evolving, and it's not going to stop here. It's going to continue for the next 30 years, so you have to be ready to do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you should go, because I think Gretchen gave me some counsel. We've known each other for a while, and she's like, you're new here. I'm going to talk. So, well, you should go.
Mike and I literally started our careers together, and we met in probably 2002,
Yeah.
3. So
Don't date
it's been a
us.
while. I know. We were 12. No, I mean, look, he had mentioned earlier, right? These facilities have good bones. Like, they are good buildings. They were built in the right place. They were built there for a reason. Some of those good bones can be challenging. Upgrading technology is difficult in, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of square foot of place that is steel and concrete that was not built to house today's technology. It's expensive, it's hard, it's difficult, it requires some expertise. Making sure that people have a safe environment is big, and then people are used to doing things in a really quick, convenient way, and not all of our concourses and our concessions were built that way originally. It doesn't mean that they can't be retrofitted, but that is the key, and we hear that from our fans. I will say, the NBA does a really good job of sharing data, and so I think the entry points, the traffic, all of that we hear as well. The interesting thing is that sometimes we're in it so much, and so our experience is Houston and what is this like and what is that like here, and the NBA secret shops across that, and we actually score very, very high compared to other cities and other areas on the same things that is the most difficult for our fans. We actually rank pretty high compared to others. That doesn't mean anything. Nobody's going to Milwaukee or Chicago, like from Houston, to go to a game and comparing that. But sometimes we do take for granted the positives because it's easier to talk about the negatives.
I think Gretchen brings up a really interesting point, which is we're so in it. Like, this is our building. We're used to it. We are our own reference point. And one of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do is spend time with our fans, but not only our fan council and our fans at large, but also our corporate partners and our business users who have experiences, they have tickets, they have suites at other venues, or they travel to other cities. And one of the themes that has come back a number of times has been like, hey, have you been here? What do you think about this? Wow, I was just in this city. They have such a great experience. And if you go back to how we started this conversation about what sports means to the city, you start putting those two things together, how important it is for the city and what the people, business users in our city are seeing at other cities. That's one of the things that I walk out and I say, gosh, at some point this will really come to a head, because the business community is indirectly looking at Houston and how we perform on the venues that they visit here, and vice versa when we go to other places. And so to really keep Houston as a first-class destination, what are the places they visit? And a lot of times it's our venues. And I think that's been one of the themes that's come back, has been that we're behind on those experiences, that they're going to other cities, they're going to other venues, and they're recognizing that there is a different level of how to entertain and conduct business when you're at these live events.
Giles, you said that people are watching games and interacting with games differently. Do you think technology, aside from the structural, is the biggest challenge that sports venues specifically are facing, sports entertainment venues are facing? Is it a technological, or is it more infrastructure related?
Well, it's both. If you look at Dyken Park, 25 years old, if we haven't replaced it over the last 10 years, it's going to need to be replaced over the next 10. Retractable roof, air chiller system, every seat in the ballpark, concourse leaks, different things like that. There's nothing wrong with having a ballpark that's 50 years old, right? We are maintaining Dyken Park, and we're spending a lot of money to do it. We're averaging about $12 million a year since Jim bought the team in maintaining that ballpark. But it just keeps getting, there's more and more things. It never stops, and it's never going to stop. So we have to do a lot of heavy infrastructural things at the ballpark to get us to 2055, and we're looking forward to doing that. We're not interested in a stadium's arms race. There's no sense in doing that. We want to provide a first-class facility for our fans. We know we're going to put money into it every year to get there. It's infrastructure as well as technology. It's as well as changing the venues and doing things that fans want to see. So it is, everything has to be continually maintained.
From the rodeo's perspective,
Very much the same. It's about having that instant access to be able to order your food and even watch scores. I mean, there's a lot of, the rodeo sport is growing, and there's a lot of new apps and technologies out there for rodeo fans. And so that's always front of mind. But even as we look at different stadiums, we're not blind to the fact that a lot of stadiums don't have as many seats as ours have. There is more club space. I think that's a big piece as we move forward, is creating more of a club space, because we've seen our fans like to be more social. They don't, matter of fact, if you go to the East and West Club during our show, you'll see a lot of people in there watching because they like the social piece before they go out to their seat, or maybe instead of going out to their seat. So those are some things that we certainly recognize and know we need to consider as we look towards the future of creating that space that we know the fan will enjoy.
absolutely. Gretchen, you and I were talking yesterday about kind of not just what happens in your buildings as far as your teams go, right? But what happens outside of the team sports that have to, and you made a point about it too, Jess, is all of the other things that happen inside of these facilities that, one, generate revenue, contribute to the economy, and certainly help maintain the building, or at least help to pay for that. Can you guys talk about some of these things that happen in your buildings, whether in the past or coming up, that you think are going to be, one, a big benefit to the economy, certainly, but also to the way that you guys operate those buildings and changing, Giles, to your point, the way that we interact with fans?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the way, folks are enjoying the rodeo, and then a couple months later, it'll be a football game, right? And just to give you an idea of the last 2 weeks, and my team is here, so if I forget an event, do not yell at me. But for Toyota Center, we'll host 75 third-party and concert events. We will have significantly more events that are not Houston Rockets basketball occur in that building. So every decision that we make, yes, it is the home of the Houston Rockets. That is why the facility was built. That is going to be the first thing. But we have to think about how it also functions for a concert and what type of show. So we had, in the last 2 weeks, it was Lil Baby, a huge private buyout event at the arena, Andrea Bocelli, 2 Shakira shows, Wu-Tang, what's up? And a Houston Rockets draft party, right? Like, that is, when you talk about like the diversity of the city and the diversity of the events, like that's about every cross section of Houston that will come to Toyota Center to witness that. And that's our core business. That is annual. I know that we'll talk about future events in 2026. We've partnered with Houston First. There's some other construction that's going on in other cities that is very key to Houston right now. It gives our city a chance to go steal convention business because they are going offline, and this city says, nope, we're absolutely not going offline. Every improvement that we make, we are staying busy. So we're going to get a huge event that will close our building to traditionally concerts and games, to partner with the city to bring over 10,000 participants and over 40,000 guests. That will be a multi-year thing. So we're partnering with the city on something that may not be our traditional business, but it is the right thing to do to bring people to the city and bring business to hotels and restaurants. In 2026, for the first time, we will host the NCAA regionals. It's supposed to happen during COVID. Also, don't recommend becoming president during COVID. And that will come to the event. And then in 2028, the city of Houston and Toyota Center will host the Republican National Convention. And so that has nothing to do with sports, but it is the largest international meeting event that is non-sports that will happen in the world, are the U.S. political conventions. We tried to get DNC 2 times. We didn't get it. We lost it to newer buildings that had fresher infrastructure. And so working with Houston First, we said we know Toyota Center in the city of Houston is ready to do this. We have this infrastructure with convention hotels and a beautiful, layout with green space anchored by 2 buildings, and we've made a commitment to make sure that we'll be ready for that, and that is something that's going to benefit the Houston and put us on a world stage, and hopefully we'll get another All-Star game after that.
Absolutely. And then, Giles, you've got World Baseball Classic coming up in the spring.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting 26 for you guys. We have World Baseball Classic early March, Sweet 16 late March, and then the World Cup coming in June and July. So those events are going to put us on the world stage. They're going to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact to the city of Houston. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and it shows the importance of these venues and making sure that they are first-class facilities and making sure that we're able to host events like that and put Houston on a world stage, bring people here who are coming for these sporting events and staying in hotels and spending money at restaurants and retail stores and experiencing Houston for possibly the first time. So yeah, it's all extremely important. The role that we play in this local economy is very significant.
The thing I'll add, when you have a roof and you can convert your facility faster and you're set up to do that, it makes a big difference. What Gretchen just described in a 2-week period at Toyota Center is not possible at Shell Energy Stadium with a natural grass field and an outdoor facility. You talk about the cost of maintenance and upkeep. If you took the roof off of your house and let it sit for 13 years, what happens to your appliances and your HVAC and your all of your exciting things? That is the decision that was made, obviously, in an outdoor stadium, and we are working very, very aggressively to try to program a uniquely challenging building to program. The fact that we have natural grass and are converting to concerts and bring in floors, that doesn't mean we can't do it. It means we need to be creative. We don't want to see outdoor concerts and shows only go to Cynthia Woods, because you talk about traffic in Houston. For those of us that do not live anywhere near the Woodlands, we're not going up there. So what does it look like to program outdoor shows, especially in the summertime, which has a time and a place in downtown? We believe we have the infrastructure and the opportunity to do it. Major League Soccer is looking at a calendar switch that would open up the summer in a major way. We are obviously major supporters of seeing the calendar switch to a European model of global football, where you take a break in the summer in a way that doesn't exist right now. But that's the unique differentiator there. But I'll add, because you asked, in about 10 days, the CONCACAF Gold Cup will start. There will be 3 days, 5 matches that will come to Shell Energy Stadium, and then the final will be hosted at NRG Park. It is a massive international tournament. You talk about the World Cup. There's nothing bigger than that. But the thing that we know about international soccer is there's tremendous amount of programming happening every single year, and Houston continues to welcome more international soccer events than any other city in the country. And that is something we have to stay at the top of, because other cities are surely watching, saying, how do we get the events and the programs and the matches and the tournaments that Houston continues to get? And they're ready to take it from us. So we just need to be willing to sort of meet them where they are.
Sure, and we, be remiss not to mention the Sports Corporation and their oversight of NRG Park. Obviously, without NRG Stadium, we wouldn't have World Cup or Super Bowl or Final Four. So, and certainly thanks to your partnership and collaboration on all those major events. And talking about World Cup, what do you see that does for soccer in Houston specifically from 26 and beyond?
I mean, it's doing it already now. Tomorrow is 1 year out. If you didn't know that, 1 year out from the start of the tournament. It is going to be an absolute rocket ship based on the dialogue we're having with the business community, especially. There is a tremendous amount of interest in being a part of that in some way, whether it's direct or ancillary. We have the opportunity to sort of be the way that soccer comes alive in this city before, during, and after the tournament, and that our 2 teams, the Dash and Dynamo, are consistently in season, and they're a way where you can experience first-class and world-class athletes on a regular basis almost every weekend in East Downtown. You don't need to wait until next summer to see that. So we're working closely with the Sports Authority, with the Sports Corp, with Houston First, with the city, on making sure that our facility, our stadium, the Fan Fest opportunity that will be in East Downtown are the best offering for not just visitors that are traveling, that hopefully select Houston as their home base. to see as many of these 7 matches, or just to experience everything that's around it, even if they might not be able to afford match tickets. There's going to be a whole segment of people who just want to be around the atmosphere. They might not even really need to go to a game, as you see in certain ballparks and the environments. People go just to be around what's happening. How do we make Houston the place they go? But then also, how do we connect residents to all of the hoopla and the excitement about World Cup? It's 39 days, this tournament, which is so unique, and it means that we've been thinking about it for a while. We will continue to, and soon share sort of the plans for how the Dynamo Dash and Shell Energy Stadium will be able to, and our fans and our partners will be able to connect to next summer's festivities.
So I think we're getting close to the question and answer time, so I would remind the audience, if you do have a question, please text the number and send in your question. We'd love to hear from you. I know that there's been a lot of information shared today, but I'm sure that they have some other questions that we all love to answer, landlord or not. So continuing on with your theme, Jess, is how are the rest of the teams looking to leverage a World Cup in Houston, knowing that it is a soccer game, but it's certainly not a rodeo per se or a football game? How are you guys looking to leverage the world's eyes at Houston, on Houston?
We're going to activate at Daikin Park. We'll have events there throughout the World Cup. We're going to have baseball games going on as well, so that's going to be a pretty busy time for everyone. But you'll have a lot of street fests and a lot of things like that, different things that we'll be doing throughout our ballpark. It's going to be active for us as well.
Yeah, we'll be activating as well around that. I think that the real key is, or the way that we look at it, is to be a world-class city. World-class events are part of that. That's what world-class cities do. They have world-class events. And to have world-class events, you have to have a world-class facility to continue to win those bids, to continue to have them in. And that's so important for Houston because of how diverse it is. Like, we look at our Texans fan base and we mirror the community. And so to have events that, certainly are relevant to our overall fan base and or allow people to get a little closer to us, even if it's through an activation when they're on the way to a soccer match, like, those are important key touches. And we talked a little bit about the corporate community. We have partners who are national. We have partners who are global. That's important to have these types of events so they can just continue to lean on us as really kind of their source for entertainment, whatever that happens to be. Those bonds are really important. And so to be able to activate an event like this, a global event like this, that is a great thing for us to have to continue to widen our base and get deeper with our fan base.
Absolutely.
1 year out falls around Game 3 of the NBA Finals, give or take. So maybe we'll be busy.
Go Rockets, absolutely. One last question, and I think we're going to give you all a chance to say your closing piece, if there was something that wasn't talked about. How are you all engaging the fans of the future, the youth? How are you getting the youth engaged in your respective sports or industries?
Well, obviously, a part of our mission is supporting youth. So through
It's for the kids.
It's for the kids. That's right. And so between really all of our events, there's a piece of how do we engage young people, and even more specifically, we have a junior rodeo committee where we're engaging young people at the teenage years to be a part of joining our committees. But at the same time, again, rodeo audience, livestock show audience. Obviously, we have a carnival that brings a lot of kids, and so our goal is to get them engaged, to bring them to the park over something that would interest them, hopefully, and then we try to make sure they understand the mission and what we do, and it's grounded in what we do. It's why every scholarship winner becomes a member of our show, is so that we're building that next generation. It's always front of mind for us.
What's your favorite ride at the carnival?
You have to ask our chairman of the board, Pat Mann-Phillips. She's much better on the roller coasters than I am. I prefer to watch.
Okay, all right. The ground. Yeah. Jeff?
Sure. I mean, for all of us, it's the future. Soccer, you talk about World Cup, right? The participation levels of soccer for both boys and girls. It is a sport you can literally start at 2 years old playing. You need a ball and you need something to kick the ball in. It is accessible. Our experience will stay affordable. That's important to us, so as we grow our fan base. But no, I mean, for us, we think about the community aspect of making sure that kids all across Houston in all neighborhoods have places to play that are safe, that are well lit, that are programmed with coaches and community activations and partners who want to do this. They want to grow the game with us, and obviously we're working closely with the World Cup, the host committee, the legacy opportunity of what happens afterwards. There's so much that's going to happen next summer, but what does it look like in the fall? What does it look like in 2027 in terms of how much have we grown participation in soccer, girls and boys, because it has the ability to obviously be one of the most popular sports in the country. It is already the most popular sport in the world. Talk about the parallels between Houston and the diversity. This is a sport that speaks all languages. People call it different things, but they grow up with it across the world, and we believe that that's important to start at the youngest age, and then to connect, obviously, playing that sport with the love of your hometown's professional teams. And it's something that we've all seen change, as sports soccer specifically has grown. In the U.S., Major League Soccer is only 30 years old. You couldn't follow the Dynamo as a kid growing up in Houston before 20 years ago because the Dynamo are 20 years old. So how do we grow the next generation of kids? Really, you see them now. They grew up Dynamo fans. 10 years ago, the Dash, 11 years ago, the Dash were brought to Houston. We just haven't had that opportunity that some of my peers have had because of the newness of the sport. So we are very focused on it.
So one of the first things Jim did when he bought the team was to form the Astros Foundation. And one of our early initiatives was the Astros Youth Academy. And we went out, and with corporate support, we went out and renovated 23 city-owned baseball fields and softball fields. We provide training, uniforms. Most importantly, we maintain all of those city parks and the fields on a monthly basis. So we keep them in good shape. We have training for the kids to get out there. It's been an amazing program that's been very successful. We actually have a draft pick, our first draft pick 2 years ago, Bryce Matthews, came up through the Astros Youth Academy, went to Nebraska to play baseball, and was drafted in the first round by us. And he's in AAA right now, doing very well. So it's a great program it's been great for the city. It's been great to provide kids with the opportunity to get great training in baseball and practice on good fields.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
I think we're all going to give
Yeah, the
relatively,
same.
similar. I mean, look, global football is huge. Basketball is the second most populous participated sport internationally, both in boys and girls. That is clearly the future of the NBA and the sport of basketball. So continuing to grow that is big. Our park initiative with Parks and Recs, we've done 3. We haven't gotten to 23 yet, but it's but we're ticking them off one at a time is hugely important. And our sport is sometimes it's better to be lucky and good translates very well to digital and technology, into highlights, into film, and so just the pop culture and the culture aspect of the culture of basketball is growing immensely too. So we're excited about the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing is that you can see everybody's focused in on the youth. I mean, it's important for us. I think I referenced it a little bit in the beginning on our real focus on making football accessible to boys and girls, certainly from a flag standpoint. And so, really under the leadership of Hannah McNair, we're working through making sure there's a vertical path all the way up. So you can start really at a early grade level, go through junior high, high school, and through college. And so working with the high schools to make sure that it's a recognized sport, that it's supported. And the reason that's so important for us, one, we want to make sure everyone's a Texans fan, like as young as they can be as soon as we can get our hands on them. But the other side is there's so many studies, and I think that's probably why we're all pushing on it. There's so many studies that show how beneficial it is for a young person to play competitive sports and what that means for them later in life and how they can contribute to society in a successful way. And so for us, bless you, Marty. And so, I think for us, that is a key driver on how do we build our fan base early, but how, again, going back to, what is so near and dear to Cal is like, how do you do well for the Texans so that you do good for the community? And the youth is one of those paths that we're doubling down on.
Absolutely. Before we open it up, I want to give each of you a moment to say maybe something you didn't get a chance to say, take 1 or 2 minutes, but I do want to thank, obviously, our local leaders, Harris County Commissioners Court, certainly Mayor Whitmire, their leadership and thought, as he said in his opening remarks. Without that, I don't think any of us would be sitting here today. And certainly, the $4 billion of economic development that has happened since the 3 stadiums downtown were built, the $1.2 billion in economic development that events have brought to Houston and Harris County since 2019 through the major events. And certainly Houston's had more major events than any other city in the country since 2004. Of course, the World Cup economic impact estimated to be at $1.5 billion, which is a fantastic number. You think about it, but I think too it helps us continue the conversation about what are the possibilities of the stadiums and facilities of the future, and how do we maintain them as world-class? How do we continue to bring those facilities? So thank you, Mayor, for your leadership on that, and certainly the other local leaders that are helping us continue to keep Houston a world-class sports destination. So thank you for that.
I feel like that was a good wrap-up.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to start with you.
like what you
Any
said.
closing remarks?
Yeah, one, thank you to the Houston Business Journal for bringing this together. I think this is a very special time in Houston, and a lot of that has to do with this very special community out there. And again, I think I come with a fresh set of eyes on how welcoming the community is, how diverse it is, how proud it is, and how engaged it is. And having the ability to live in other cities and travel and see, I can truly tell you it is very unique. And so the question is, what do we do with all that? How do you turn that into something that can be meaningful for generations? And so it's upon us, and it's in part our responsibility. But I couldn't be more thankful. I think that's my closing note. Have a ton of gratitude for this community, for the welcoming arms, certainly the McNairs, but overall this group here as well. It's one of those things when certainly I think about the rodeo, I think about the Sports Corp, ultimately Harris County, on how we can work together. The way it started, I couldn't be more bullish on the future.
That's awesome. Glad you're here. Welcome. Gretchen?
We're gonna all wrap it up.
We're all going to wrap it up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't, Mike said it, you guys have said it, like, I think sometimes we can take our community and our relationships and the city for granted. Like, this does not happen, right? Like, the mayor talked about it from 30 years ago, like putting together those initiatives in order to build this building. They didn't do it because it was cool. They didn't do it because it was fun. Like, they did it because that sports matter and they make an impact in the city, and that you've seen time and time again as it relates to the civic pride. We know how important, Mike talked about it before, everyone will have said, some version of the same thing. Like, it matters. You see a reflection of yourself in sport. You see people trying hard and failing and getting back up and coming and do it the next day, and you have the agony of defeat and the joy of victory, and like that happens in life. And when you can get and you can see people like my boss who was from here, who started with one restaurant and has built this empire and is now the ambassador to Italy, right? Like, those stories happen in Houston. You have an Astros player who started at a youth field that Jim Crane decided to renovate and is in program and now is there. Like, it is it is a megaphone of what is happening, and we're thankful for everyone here who also feels the same way.
Yeah, this has been great. I appreciate Houston Business Journal, you, Ryan, for putting this together. We all have to work together. These stadiums were built 2000 to 2003 with 30-year leases. So that's all great, but we're all kind of coming to the end of that at the same time. And so it's going to be extremely difficult. It's expensive, and we all have to work together. We have to be collaborative, and we have to be creative. And that's the thing that it's good for us to be here. It's good for us to talk about it. It's good for us to have the opportunity to talk to the mayor about it, because these are going to be tough decisions. You're not turning water into wine over there at the Sports Authority, I don't think. So
Not that I know of.
So-
Ryan said money was going to come from the
We are
ceiling
planting
today.
some money trees, though, somewhere.
So we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, you've heard it from us. It's going to take creative solutions. It's going to take courage. Mayor Whitmire challenged all of us, the Sports Authority, the county, the city, to come together collectively less than a year ago about how do we solve this challenge. We're certainly not going to solve it by just acknowledging that it's a challenge and a problem. And there's an amount of collaboration and creativity and compromise that I think is important. The Business Journal brought us all together today, but we do, when we're not mic'd up and on stage, we all understand that, rising tides lift all boats. Success here for one venue or team or part of town is good for all of us. We each have a directive and a particular segment of the industry that we're focused on. But, if I was not sitting in this seat and I was under sort of looking at Houston as a whole, any improvements and any additional events and programming is good for the market to rise above. There's not enough sports industry events in Houston. The industry as a whole doesn't make enough sort of headway in terms of rising above, but then you're here and you're in it. And to Mike's point, I'm not the new one anymore, which is nice. I've been here 3 years, and we're underrated in so many ways, and this is how we change it. The perception matters nationally, and we change it by starting to really change the best-in-class infrastructure to match the best-in-class reputation and drive that we all have.
Dr. Bowman?
I'm not sure how to follow all that,
Yeah, I don't know
but I
if
think
you
it's
could.
well said. I do want to
Sure.
highlight just one specific thing, and since it is the Houston Business Journal that's helping to put this together today, and we've talked about the fan experience, we've talked about what we do for this community from a community outreach point of view, and we've talked about sponsors. But I think another heavy lift for us is to make sure we recognize the importance that all the businesses that are involved in all these events, that from hotels to restaurants to transportation to all points in between. You said 1.5 billion is the prediction on World Cup. We do an economic impact every 3 or 4 years. It's 300 million every year that we put on our show, and that's another thing that certainly I think we need to recognize when I think about Cavendish sitting on the corner of 610 and Kirby, or you think about what it means. The decisions that we're going to make not only impact the fan, but it impacts this community from a business point of view. And that's a lot of pressure, but I think as was said around here, it's going to take all of us. This is going to be a public, private, how many things can we put together? Because it does seem that they're all the same age. And so it's about us pitching in, being around this table together, I think is critically important as we move forward. We have to learn from each other, we have to share ideas, we have to collaborate, all the above.
Absolutely. There's definitely a lot to do, but as Mayor Whitmire would say, let's get to work. And now I know we're going to open it up to question and answers, and I think to help facilitate that is Chandler France. He'll be reading through some of the questions that you, give him a round of applause.
I certainly don't need a round of applause, but I do appreciate that. Do have a few questions from the audience. Thank you, everyone, for submitting some questions. We had a lot of really good ones. I know these guys are probably sick of answering questions from me, but these are from the audience, so don't shoot the messenger here. Our first one's from Sarah Frazier. She says, our fans are great fans, but nationally, our fans, and our city for that matter, are underrated. Why do you think that is, and what can we do to change that perception? And Ryan, I'd love your perspective on that as well.
Oh, good. Question for you, Ryan.
Oh, yeah, look at that. It's not the question Gretchen wanted, but we'll get to that, I'm sure. As far as underrated fans, I think we have the best fans in the world. Number one, we're not Dallas, which I think is a great start. But I think we have great fans, and I think, number one, the diversity of not only the community in Houston, but certainly the diversity of offerings of sports that we have lends itself to that. So I wouldn't say that the fans in Houston are necessarily underrated. I think they've got all kinds of stuff that we can figure out and do and root for, whether you're a Texan or a Rocket or an Astro or a Dynamo or rodeoer, cowboy?
Fan's fine.
Rodeo fan, okay. Or carnival goer, one of the two. So I would say Houston fans are the best in the world, honestly.
That's for all of you all as well.
Yeah, I just threw out that the city was underrated, so I'll back it up. I think I moved here from the East Coast, and I do think part of it is storytelling. I think the national media and national brands and the voices with the loudest platforms, they do matter when it comes to the reputation, and I think a lot of what we're talking about today can help to change that. When there are only 11 host cities in the U.S. for next summer's World Cup festivities, that starts to sort of change some of that in the World Baseball Classic and the Republican National Convention, everything we've talked about, because at the end of the day, those are event organizers who decide where am I sending my program that is the most important decision they could make. I think the convenience that I mentioned earlier is wildly underrated. We've all been to events and stadiums across the country, and it is an absolute trek to get anywhere, to go from your hotel to the stadium and back, or to find a spot nearby to have a drink or a bite to eat. It is not easy in a lot of major markets, and a lot of our competitors are facing challenges that none of us really face. The energy park dynamic is a little bit different in some of what we talked about. But I think the connectivity of the airports, the transportation, the hotel and tourism offerings, the arts and culture, I do believe as sort of the outsider to Texas is that is underrated and that we can change that individually and collectively.
You know, I take that question in a couple ways. There's a part of me, by the way, a very small part, but a part of me that doesn't mind it. You know, I think one of the great things about Houston is it is such a large city that doesn't act that way. I think there's a great humility to the people and how we go about our business, and I think that's phenomenal. So that's the small part of me that doesn't mind that piece. I think the big piece is I kind of go fast forward and it's like, oh, if that's the case, well, what do we do about it? And it's really about, I do think it is about a national narrative. So it's like, how do you steer that? And I think we have the ability to steer all those things. It's in front of us. You know, it has to do with how do sports teams, that's just earned media, you know, how do sports teams, how do major events like the rodeo, how do we make sure that we take up the conversation on the national stage? And part of that has to do with why we're here today, talking about facilities, how they visit, how do we make it easier, how do we make those world class? You know, we hope to win some football games and help that narrative. But I think that the fact that you have all these major franchises that already live here, it's not like we have to go get them. They already live here is why we'll win, because we have this great stage, because we have the content. And now we just got to make sure collectively we bring this together in a vision that everyone understands, not only in Houston, but on the national stage. So how do you bring together a district? How do you bring together these things to make sure that it's like, when I think of Houston, it's like, what do I think of? And you can look around this table and there's a reason to think of all of us in a very proud manner. And so it's ultimately like life, it's about performing. Like the stage is set, now it's like, as I said, what are you going to do with it? And I think we have the ability with this group up here.
Just real quick, sorry. Yeah. Just real quickly. Our fans, I believe we have the best fans in the world. We went through some difficult times. Our fans stood behind us and were phenomenal for years. My favorite part of that was running through the playoffs with every team, all their fans saying, we want Houston, we want Houston. And we got to the World Series, it became our slogan. And it was so cool for our fans to be yelling, we want Houston, we want Houston, back at these other fans. So it might not be recognized outside of here, but we have the best fans in the world.
Yeah, I'm with Mike and Giles on this one. Like, let them underrate us, right? Yeah. Like, it's not who are you. It does matter on a national stage. Like, you want to make sure people are there, but that's what makes the city great. Like, we are an underrated city, but the people who live here and are here and know exactly who we are, and when they come into our building, they absolutely feel our fans. They felt it when they underestimated the heart of a champion, and they felt them against these guys, and they felt them against them, and maybe one day they'll feel them against you. You're next. Let them underrate you. You're up next. That was a good thing. That wasn't bad.
That's more of a Gresham Mike thing, not a
Chad, I
thing.
will add, the rodeo has definitely been more purposeful and strategic in moving our brand national. There's no question we have a strong state and regional brand, but we've been very purposeful in doing that because we continue to hear when guests do come from the first time from the East Coast or West Coast, I can't believe y'all do this. And so we have been very purposeful trying to grow that brand nationally, no question.
Last one for y'all here. This one is from Linda Toyota. Small businesses are the economic driver of the economy. How are each of you creating and being more accessible to have inclusive opportunities for small businesses?
I'll start with that one. We've got the Sports Authority, and certainly through the World Cup, it's a massive opportunity. So we have created what's called the Buy Houston program, which is a local small hub MWB business vendor program that if you have a small local business, you sign up as a vendor through the Sports Authority, and it kind of gives you the opportunity to bid on or participate in, whether it's a FIFA opportunity or whether it's a Sports Authority opportunity. It's the opportunity that presents itself. We're pushing hard to make sure that not just World Cup, but certainly any event that comes through the Sports Authority. I mean, you go to that list first. If you need a tent, you go to that list first. If you need a caterer, you go to that list first to make sure that Houstonians and the businesses in our region, the small local businesses, get that opportunity to be a part of the world's activity, the world stage.
Yeah, I'll jump in there too. For us, a lot of that happens through our commercial exhibits and our commercial exhibitors and food vendors. We look at those every year. We try to become, we obviously want to give what the people want in terms of purchasing, but at the same time, we try to diversify that and offer some different things that we hope hit and support local businesses. At the same time, to Ryan's point, I mean, tent setup, really how we manage the operation. It takes a lot of local talent during the 20-day show, and really from barbecue all the way to the end, as well as all the tear down and cleanup. So there's a number of back of house things. I mean, as Mike DeMarco likes to say, porta potties aren't sexy either, but we have to have them. And so those are all local businesses. Golf carts are local businesses. We work with several sponsors that are with Ford that are more local to the area in terms of the work we do. So that too, because we take so much pride in it being a community event, that we have that happening.
Sure. I mean, we've talked about it today, but Houston is the most resilient city in this country, and there's nobody more resilient than small business owners. They have to be right now, especially through COVID, obviously. But you know, there's sort of the hits keep coming to business owners, and they have really been vocal in making sure that, you know, we consider ourselves a reflection of the neighborhood and the community that we support. And, you know, we've challenged ourselves that before we're asking these small business owners or business owners, period, to support us and come out to our matches, have we shown up for them, you know, in the ways that they need us to the points mentioned, by supporting their businesses in terms of dollars, which is ultimately the best thing you can do, but also amplifying the stories. There are so many, and we all have probably a few that come top of mind, but there are so many great stories about resilient business owners who have come, you know, from all different parts of the world, make Houston home and created something here that is a unique differentiator in the same way that our venues and our teams are unique differentiators, maybe even in a different and better way in some cases because of the way that we got there. So we are obsessed, I would say, with making sure that we show up for the business community. And we also hear that from our corporate partners, the Fortune 500 companies that drive Houston. They want to support small business owners. So there's a great alignment there that I don't think really competes in any way. It just adds.
We do it every chance we get. We're looking for ways to engage and activate with the small businesses. We try to bring in a lot of local flavor, as Chris said, into our venue. We do a lot of that with the Houston Open as well, and we're able to do a little bit more over there. So we're always focused on trying to help local businesses and support them any way we can.
I mean, I would just say some of the collaboration, the mayor talked about it before, but, you know, with sort of the next chapter for the Sports Authority, as Ryan has these programs. They have events that are coming in all the time. There's different vendors that need, and Jess talked about how hard it is to run these businesses, and collaborating and making sure that it is easier for people and for us and for people who are making decisions to know who's available, what their pricing is, what their infrastructure is, what events they've done before will be significantly easier for us to all lean in together versus having people trying to reach out to all of us all of the time. We're looking forward to working more closely with them.
Yeah, I think just continue to look at our experience. You know, is it an experience that is user-friendly for them? You know, I think we have, all of our collective buildings are set up to host Fortune 500. You know, we have that type of inventory. Do we have the inventory that speaks to what they're trying to do when they come to a game? And so, you know, our focus on making sure that we're continuing to evolve the bowl, so to speak, but just the stadium experience overall is a key focus for us.
Can we give our panelists another round of applause? That concludes this morning's program. On behalf of the Houston Business Journal, thank you to our sponsors, to our insightful panelists, and each of you for spending the morning with us. We do have a few final notes before we go. Nominations are now open for several of our upcoming award events, including the Fastest Growing Companies, Women Who Mean Business, and our HR Impact Awards. These programs recognize the trailblazers, innovators, and change makers shaping Houston's business landscape. If you know someone or a company doing outstanding work, we encourage you to submit a nomination. You can do so on the QR code right up there. We'd love to have your input on that one. Don't forget to check out some of our upcoming events as well. From award celebrations to thought-provoking leadership panels like this one. There's something for everyone. You can view the schedule on the screen or scan the QR code to learn.